I'm a Homeworks by Precept consultant and a homeschool mom of 3. And today we're going to take a look inside English 6, 2nd edition. That includes the teacher's edition, the student work text, and the test packet. So let's take a look inside. So now we'll take a look inside the teacher's edition for English 6. The first page you'll come to is the contents page, and it just breaks down where you can find everything within your teacher's edition. It breaks it down by chapter and each lesson found within those chapters. And you'll notice that it alternates between grammar and writing. I'll also tell you where you can find the writing handbook, the grammar handbook, and the other resources for this class. You'll find the goals for English 6, as well as the instructional materials, which include your student work text, teacher's edition, teacher toolkit CD, and test. You'll have a section on how grammar lessons are laid out, and this includes the introductory activity, teaching the material, questions and examples to use, work text pages to assign, extra information that your student may find interesting, how to modify and adapt those lessons if you need to, any extra handouts that go along with that lesson, as well as the answer to those. And then you'll find your students' work text pages in the middle with the answers. You'll also see how the writing lessons are laid out, which includes any materials that you'll need, information about the literature link, teaching the lesson, how to modify or adapt that lesson, any extra handouts that your student will need, as well as the answers, and then your student work text pages in the middle with any answers as well. You'll also find teaching tips, and these include scheduling the lessons, planning the English lessons, teaching grammar and writing, teaching study skills and reference skills, teaching listening skills and speaking skills, teaching vocabulary, how to do an English word wall, which is just a review and reinforcement of concepts, but they're able to visualize it, working with one student, and working with English as a second language students. You'll find a section that talks about the review features found in this course, as well as homework assignments that you can do as well. And then ideas for grading for both grammar and writing, and overall percentages for the course. You'll find the Bible action truths and Bible promises to discuss with your child. Then you'll find the lesson plan section. And we'll take a look at chapter 5, which is a grammar chapter. You'll find the chapter at the top of the page, as well as what will be covered in the chapter. Then you get an overview of all the lessons within the chapter. That includes what lesson number, the lesson topic, the teacher edition pages you will need, your student work text pages, what you will need from the teacher toolkit CD, anything you will need for that lesson, vocabulary words, and the objectives for the chapter. You'll also find suggestions for learning centers to use. And each grammar chapter is themed, and you will find information about the theme for that chapter here as well. Then it'll go right into the first lesson of that chapter. You can find the lesson number at the top, the pages your student will need, and then it goes into how to teach that lesson. You'll find the objectives and any materials that your student will need first, information on what to discuss about the theme, and then how to introduce the concepts and teach them. The teacher questions to ask are bold, and the answers from your students are in red. You may find highlighted sections, which is the information that your student needs to understand and know. You'll find the assignments or the work text pages to assign and how to modify the lesson if you need to. Any extra handouts that you will need to go along with the lesson will be found in the bottom corner. And then you will find your student work text pages in the middle, and these will have the answers in red. And each lesson is laid out this way. Some lessons you may have an extra info box that just contains interesting information to give your student. Writing chapters look a little bit different. Writing chapters will start with a page that looks like this and have a literature link section. Then you will find the chapter overview. It will tell you exactly what you're going to be working on during this chapter, and then break it down by lessons, what pages you'll need for your teacher's edition, what pages your student will need, what you'll need from the Teacher Toolkit CD, any other materials that you will need, vocabulary terms, and objectives, as well as learning center ideas. Because this is a writing chapter and a writing assignment will be required, you will have a rubric to go along with that chapter. And this is just a way for you to check off that your student has everything they need, as well as how to grade. And then it jumps into the lesson. And it's laid out the same way. It has the objectives, the materials, discussion points, questions to ask your student, and talk about the topics, how to modify the lesson if you need to, and any extra handouts, as well as your students' work text pages with any answers in the middle. So all the information is very easy to find and is laid out all in one place. Toward the back of your teacher's edition, you will find all the supplemental content. The first thing you'll see is the writing handbook, and it is color-coded. You can see the colors from the side. And the first part of it is the thesaurus. So it explains what it is, and then the different parts to it. And it's laid out in alphabetical order so that the words are easy to find. The next section is on the writing process, and it explains each step of the writing process. It also gives any examples on how to do those steps. You'll find examples of the different graphic organizers that your student will use when completing all their writing assignments. You'll also find the examples for the different writing models that your student will complete. And it'll give an explanation of what each one is, as well as an example. And they'll find some commonly misspelled words. And then there will be the grammar handbook. It is also color-coded if you look from the side. And this includes abbreviations, contractions, prefixes and suffixes, prepositions, homophones, irregular verbs, diagramming models, and the glossary. Next, you would find the activity pages to use throughout the lessons. And you can find which lesson they go with at the bottom of the page. And it'll tell you the chapter and the lesson number. And you just make a copy of these to give to your student for that lesson. You'll also find the Keeping Up handouts at the back as well. These are optional grammar handouts that were labeled what lesson they go with. And because these are optional, you don't have to do them. But if your student is struggling with a certain lesson or concept, this is a good way to review that. And at the very back of your teacher's edition is your Teacher Toolkit CD. Now we'll take a look inside the student work text for English 6. The first page your student will come to is the contents page. It breaks down the chapters and their lessons. And your student will be able to see that it alternates between grammar and writing. And then it jumps into the very first lesson. We'll jump over to a grammar chapter. And you'll find at the bottom of the page, it'll tell you the chapter and the lesson number. And then you'll find the lesson topic at the very top. And you'll find the box that does the introduction to the lesson. And it just explains the topic that will be talked about. Any rules or examples that your student needs to know. And then it'll have a guided practice section that your student will work on as they're learning the material. The back page is the independent practice. And that's just the information your student will complete on their own as a way to review and show that they understand that topic that was covered. And each of the lessons are laid out the same way. It's one page per lesson, front and back. At the end of the chapter, your student will find a chapter review. And this is just a way to review concepts from that chapter and a way to review for the test to make sure they're ready for it. They'll also find a cumulative review. And this provides a way to review topics that covered in previous chapters. Writing chapters begin with a page that looks like this. And we'll have a literature link to go along with it. Then it'll go into the very first lesson of that writing assignment. And it'll introduce the writing topic and give any information. And they'll have plenty of room to work and write in these books. But it breaks down the writing assignment into manageable parts. So it explains first the writing assignment and the writing topic, and then you would start working on actually completing it. And it's broken down into the writing steps of planning. Then you do drafting, revising, proofreading, and then your final copy. And each of those topics would be one lesson. And then at the end of the chapter, you would find a chapter review that just reviews those topics covered in that chapter. And then a cumulative review to review topics covered in previous chapters. Toward the back of your students' work text, they will find their writing handbook and grammar handbook. And they are color-coded for them to be able to find the information that they need. The first thing they would find would be the thesaurus. And it tells them exactly what it is, as well as the different parts of it. And then it's in alphabetical order. Next, they would find the writing process, and this just explains each step of the writing process. It gives examples of the graphic organizers that they'll use throughout this course. They'll give examples of the writing models that they'll use throughout this course and complete. So it'll give information of what it is and what's included in it, and then an example of what it would look like. They have a list of commonly misspelled words and other words that they would use. And then they would find their grammar handbook. This includes abbreviations, contractions, prefixes and suffixes, prepositions, homophones, irregular verbs, diagramming models, and a glossary at the back. And this is the same information that's found in the back of your teacher's edition as well. You'll also find the tests for English 6, and this comes with the 16 tests that your student will need. That's one test for each chapter. They are in order, as well as the answer key for each of those tests. Thank you for joining me to take a look inside English 6. If you have any questions, please reach out to a consultant and we'll be happy to answer those. Have a great day.